we'll be having the country manager, the CEO of Life Bank. So he will say his name and do a little bit of introduction. Keep sending in your questions. I'm online right now, even as the interview is going on, so I'll be able to get some of the questions and the comments as you send them. So welcome. I don't want to say your name because I want you to do the introduction. Tell us 1 or 2, 3 things about yourself, and then we will get right into it.
Thank you, Kelvin.
Yes.
It's a pleasure meeting you in person and also having to come to this media house to be able just to share what we do.
Okay.
And first of all, I am Philip Nyabera.
Okay.
I'm the country manager and CEO for Life Bank Kenya. And yeah, something about myself is that I'm a married man with 1 child. Yeah, so I really want to also say that we are currently making sure that we are able to save more lives with what we do at Life Bank. And yeah, we're in the process of making sure that every life out there that is at risk is saved through our multimodal ways of doing so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe I'll just start by asking you, maybe you could give us an introduction. How did you find yourself at Life Bank? Because I understand you have a background of telecommunication. What led to the swap? Or
Yeah, so I've been in the telecommunication industry for about 10 years, 10 to 11 years. And a bit last year, I think when COVID came and we were working from home and everyone was really afraid that they might lose their source of livelihoods and also lives, because this pandemic was not there. No one knew. There was an uncertainty in everyone's home or everyone's life. So what happened is this. So for me, I think I was there for a very long time. And I moved from one company to another, and I've seen the transformations that we've done in the telecommunication industry. And now most of the telecommunication industry are moving into technology companies. So you can see that most of the companies now, they would like to call themselves technology companies, not telecoms again, because telecoms basically was to do connectivity. So it's limited. Exactly, so it's limited to one line. But now, when you're calling yourself a technology company, basically you have a solution for everything. So you do connectivity, you do software as a service, that is SAS. Then you can always do a lot of other things that are on offer. So I think when that transformation came and Life Bank came calling, Life Bank basically is in the healthcare industry, and they're also a technology company. So I said, why not? Let me try. Still in the same field. The same field, but now a different dispensation altogether. Because now this is technology in the medical industry. So that's why I say, let me try this, because I've been here. I think working in the the telecoms industry was a bit, for me, I could call monotonous. So I said, let me try a new challenge. Yeah, that's how I ended up at Life Bank.
Okay, so maybe a little bit about what you do at Life Bank. How could you put it in a nutshell for somebody who's watching, wondering, okay, what is Life Bank? Is it a bank, the one that they store money? Now he's talking about healthcare. Maybe just a brief overview to give one idea about Life Bank.
Okay, so Life Bank basically is a technology-led company that powers hospitals and healthcare facilities with critical medical supplies in the right time, right condition, and safer than any other alternative. So basically what we do is making sure that hospitals are able to access these critical commodities at the right time. Because we've seen that a lot of people lose their lives because the accessibility and availability of these medical supplies are quite scarce. And you find that whenever lives are at stake, most hospitals are not able to find this easily. So at Life Bank, what we do is we've incorporated our technology together with our logistical prowess to make sure that we are able to deliver medical supplies faster than any other alternative, so that we can make sure that the lives are saved. Yeah.
Okay, that is wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe let me just get right to it. I wanted to ask the first question that what are some of the very pressing needs maybe you've experienced in hospitals but you are not able to meet? Because I know in every field, whether it is banking, it is the health sector, you'll always have people, you really want to do more and help them, but you are limited even in terms of resource. You can't help everybody, we know that.
Sure.
What are some of the very pressing needs, and how did you handle that, where now you can't help beyond that?
Okay, so we've seen So, as I told you, we deal with medical logistics of different products.
Okay.
So you find that, like one of the when we launched in Kenya in August 2020, we saw a pressing need in terms of blood.
Okay.
Because blood was quite a challenge for most of the Kenyans,
Mm-hmm.
and there were so many blood appeals online, on social media, everywhere. And since we, like from our previous engagements in different countries that we are in, we saw that there's something that we need to do as Life Bank to be able to change that narrative.
Yeah.
And that's why we really went in and looked at the scenarios, and we looked at the different hospitals that we have in Nairobi, and we found that there's quite a major need of blood in these institutions. You find that people lose their lives just because they could not be able to access blood. Yeah, so the worst part was that we could go to a hospital and you see mothers and children losing their lives because there was no one. Like, there was no blood at all to sort them out. Because initially, as you all know, is that blood in Kenya was being supported by donors. And when the donors left, initially, you find that they left a gap. And that gap was not filled up at the right time. And you find that that really affected a lot of Kenyans. And before now the situation changed around, you find that we were losing mothers to PPH, that's postpartum hemorrhage. We were losing children to sickle cell, and the pain was that you go to a hospital and you find these people writhing in pain, and their loved ones sitting at the bay waiting to just hear some news. And all the time it was always bad news. So that's why we came and said, let's try and work with the different forces in government, in the non-governmental institutions also, so that we can be able to change that narrative and make sure that all the lives that are at hospitals and in the different healthcare institutions can be able to be saved by our initiatives.
Now that you've talked or touched on blood, I know you do medical supplies and many other things, but now that we are already on that hot topic, there was a time I think even Kenyans were saying that blood from Kenya was being seen in Somalia. Somebody selling blood even all the way up to Somalia. So it's also a very slippery industry. How do you deal with such accusations, with such cartels? Like there's a article we even shared. Somebody tried to make a bad story about you guys. How do you handle that? Because you see, somebody will always try to paint all these people are making money out of this. Somebody was saying Kenyan blood was seen in Somalia. All the way you are now, did it reach Mogadishu?
Yeah.
So talk about that as we even also address somebody coming up with an article without even visiting Life Bank, but they have a story about you.
Okay, so basically, I think there's so many misconceptions when it comes to blood. So blood cannot be sold. Because basically blood comes from donations. And donations, it's me and you going to donate blood. It's screened by the national body, and then it's dispatched to hospitals. So for Life Bank, we do not sell blood. I think I need to make that clear, because I think it's a misconception in the market that we do, or in the public, that we sell blood. Well, that is not true. So what happened is this. So whenever hospitals have emergencies and they don't have their ambulances available to be dispatched to collect blood, so what do? Because majority of the people, like majority of the hospitals here in Nairobi, not all of them own an ambulance. You get the point? Or if it's there, it's for a different case altogether. So when people are at risk and making sure they want to save a life, they always call on someone who's very reliable. And that reliable partner is Life Bank. So what Life Bank does basically is medical logistics. So how do we do it? So we have WHO recommended cold chain boxes, and we have our trained riders who are able to action or make sure that the delivery gets to the required place at the right time, in the right condition, and faster than any other alternative. So they are able to beat traffic and make sure that whichever hospital has requested for this gets there swiftly. Because in our line of duty, we've seen like there's some instances that happened over time, and sometimes, yes, you get there faster, but you are not fast enough. You get the point? And now, to the other point of selling blood to Somalia and all that. So I think that is still under investigation. So I think it's something that happened initially, even before Life Bank came in. And I think the government is doing a lot of investigations to make sure that that is also brought to book, so that people who are dealing in the let's say, in the dubious trade of blood, are also brought to book, and they are able to like make sure that the blood space is well regulated, to make sure that everyone operating in it has one voice and they know what we need to do.
Okay.
So for me, when I say logistics, basically I charge for that, because for me to put up the lights in our office, to make sure that I pay our staff, to make sure that our fleet is maintained, so I always charge for it. So I think the misconception is on the charge for delivery. So I think most people think I am an NGO, or we are an NGO at a Life Bank, but that is something that needs to be really told, that we are not an NGO. So we are just a private company that we looked at the different scenarios in terms of sustainability, and we looked at an NGO sometimes is not sustainable, because if the funding dries up, you find that
also your mission is finished.
like the vision and mission of your NGO is done. So what we did is we come up with a sustainable way of making sure we get at least a small bit of the amount coming back to the business, so that it can be able to power us to save more. So one thing is this, that we are only known for blood, but I want to say this: we do a lot of other logistics. So we have flagship products. Number one, which is blood, that is Life Bank. Then we have Air Bank, which is oxygen. So you find that right now, different variants of COVID, people are hospitalized. So we also come in very handy when it comes to medical oxygen. So we have a fleet of oxygen, emergency and scheduled deliveries to hospitals. So you find that some hospitals that are currently coming up, they don't have all this infrastructure. So we come in and make sure that they come and meet at the level of other peers in the market, or in the ecosystem, so that we are able to solve this need that is in the ecosystem.
Okay, well put. So now, because this is the transformational talk, and we have to talk matters affecting the society, we have to see how change can be brought. I have to ask you, do you think our politics has shaped our infrastructure? That is not only in the health sector, but also schools. Because you know, like in Africa, we've been accused of having all the resources, but our leaders fail us. Like Africa is known to be a very rich continent, but then why are we beggars? Why are we always looking up to the West? Do you feel maybe our politics has contributed to the infrastructure, the scenarios you see in hospitals when you go? How can you put that?
So for me, I can say we can never run away from politics. It will always be there. It was there initially in the ancient times.
And
it will still be there until the end of the world. So I think one thing is that what I can say is we are over-reliant on government and politics and all that. So I think we can always do things to support government. I know we all pay taxes, and we know that is where we hold them accountable to make sure that everything works. But one thing is that the leaders we elect, we have a way we can be able to influence them and make sure that when they go to parliament, they are able to make policies and pass bills that will be able to change the normal scenario, both, as you said, in the health care, in the transport sector, in the schools, in the education system. So you find that we also have a part to play as individuals, that we should not always blame government. We should not always blame politics. We should not always throw a blame to anyone else, because their leaders are a true reflection of ourselves. So if we are able to elect someone and we call them corrupt, then we are corrupt also. So we need to make that submission that all of us have a responsibility to play. So when we were electing this leader, what was the motivation behind it? Was it for development? So if it was development, then we need to be also, we need to hold accountable the leaders to be also developmental, development conscious, so that we don't always come to blame them at the end of their term, that you promised us this and you never delivered. Yet whatever we elected them on was not basically on what they thought we elected them on. So maybe they gave us a handout, and that's what we rode on and give them our votes. But so we have a part to play as citizens. We need to make sure that in this, everything that we are doing, we need to make sure that we are able to hold everyone accountable for every action that happens. So if there are resources that are assigned to politicians, how are they using it? How are they going to change the ecosystem? Like every year we read budgets. How are those budgets translating into the actual projects? Like the Big Four, how is it translating into making sure that we achieve all the things that have been spelled out. So I think we also have a responsibility as citizens to hold people accountable. The one thing I can say, we are not really doing a good job at it.
Okay.
And we need to make sure that we do it, so that we get the exact thing that we want from government. Then as private sector players also, they can also come in, because they make money through what we, they make money through the different things we buy and all that.
Yeah.
So they can also come in and support in their different CSR projects and any other engagements, so that we can have like community relations with the different places to make sure that the livelihoods of people in the different societies are changed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe while we're still on the same point, I saw one of our local media houses, we were just discussing, I've seen they are planning to carry out a talk on matters health. They have a governor, they have the person in charge, AMREF and all that. I'll be also looking forward to hearing on that.
Yeah.
Maybe what are some of the policies, some of the key changes you think the government can implement in terms of our health sector? In Kenya, you find that the average person does not have a cover. Yeah. And especially even for us believers, we're always covered by the blood of Jesus. So we don't plan for anything of the sort. We just wait on Jesus and all that. So maybe your wisdom on such an area, first also at a personal level as the believers, so that we can have proper planning, but also even at a national level as the government, these policies, is it our policies that need to be rechecked, or where did we miss it?
Yeah, so first of all, as a believer, I believe that all of us need to have divine health. Like, it's our portion. It's our perfect will of God for us to live in divine health. And divine health means that no sickness and disease is not our portion. So that is the first. But you see that with the different lives that we lead, normally it leads us into a lot of issues. So you find that we end up being sick at some point.
Lifestyle. Chips every day because we are believers.
Exactly. So you have faith, yes, you'll be healed, but you are living a different lifestyle in terms of eating, in terms of exercising and all that. So I think when it comes to like that debate, I think it's a very good debate that we need to be having most of the times, because it like gives us the roadmap on universal health coverage, because you find that most people need to understand what that entails and how it's supposed to be done to the local mwananchi. Because normally what happens is that people see those debates, but they don't see the fruits of it trickling down to the normal mwananchi. So in case of like medical insurance, like for everyone, in terms of making sure that everyone is covered, like with the NHIF, of course. So you find that there's different proposals, and I really love the efforts that are being done by the current CEO in NHIF. He's trying to make sure that everyone gets covered. You get the point? So that even when it comes to issues of blood, also they can be covered on the cover, so that it's easier when people go to access services. They knowing that they are not going to actually spend anything out of it, because currently it's a hybrid system and is not really meeting the needs of the current population. So there are different elements. So I think the policies around it are the ones that really needs to be changed, and how they need to be structured is a bit differently, and that now will inform on how the people managing the different institutions can now be able to engage the population and educating them on the importance of having such cover, and how it's going to really change the livelihoods of everyone. Because one of the biggest burdens in Kenya is health, and people have loved ones who are sick, and they have spent a lot of money. Like every time, and when you go to social media, you'll find that there's an mchanga just to take someone. Exactly. So it's quite huge, and they can only tell you can cover to this level and this level. So what we want, like what needs to happen, is to make sure that the inclusion, like the budgetary allocations for the Ministry of Health, needs also to go in line with the current needs of the industry, so that we are able to meet and make sure everyone is fully covered and everyone has what it takes when it comes to when they go to hospital. How are they going to be handled, and how they're going to be treated? Sure.
As a private company, because I know in every sector, we had the former governor who was ousted saying the cartels, do you want him to function and all that. I know in every sector there's always that group, that cartel that always feels bad if you are doing the right thing because you are preventing them from getting their way of their daily bread. There are people who benefit, as sad as it sounds. There are people who benefit when others die, when others are in problem. So when you try to eliminate that problem, what are some of the opposition, the challenges you face? Because somebody was making money when people are dying, when people are not receiving these facilities because somebody is pocketing. So now you've come as a private company, you are meeting this need.
Yes.
Have you received that resistance? Maybe even from the government itself, from other bodies?
It happens.
Okay.
It happens. We cannot run away from it. In John 10:10 says, the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy. But he came so that we can have life and have it in abundance.
Yes.
So one thing I can say is this, that no one wants a perfect society. Yeah, so there's some people who really are hell-bent to make sure that whatever
People
status
suffer.
quo remains, like no changes. That is exactly the thing they use to be able to get funding to continue with their normal livelihoods. Because I think there's some people who just like a way of making it in life. They go and start something, like let's say an governmental organization. They get funding, and now that's how they make their livelihood through it. So when you come and solve that problem, that is currently funding them, then you'll have a problem. Because people will not like you because you're solving that problem that gives them money. So for me, I would like to say is this, that I think we need to think of the lives of our people and how they can be able to be like sustained in terms of their livelihoods, and how if they get different ailments and sicknesses, how they can be able to be assisted so they can come back to their feet, and not how we are going to get funding so that we are able to see people to see what there's something we are doing, yet we are not solving the problem. So all of us are supposed to be full of solutions. We people start businesses to solve a need, and at Life Bank we came to solve a need, and that need is logistics. So we've seen logistics when it comes to blood. Initially, people just used to go and carry blood in any way form possible, like they'll use an ambulance. In oxygen, they will be able to carry it on pickups and stuff. So it's not the same way that it's supposed to be done. It's not the right way to be done. Exactly. So you've seen samples move from one lab to another. There's a way they're supposed to be carried. So you find that the solutions for this are here, but other people will want to continue with the normal way. The ordinary way it's done. So I think we are moving, and technology is advancing. So we need to move with technology. Sometimes technology is always ahead, even ahead than the regulations that regulate it. So sometimes we always need to not kill it, but catch up. Exactly, and regulate it so that when it's helping the livelihoods of people, then it can also be able to be regulated so that it can be able to help more people in the right way, following the right structures that have been put in place. So
you've talked something about logistics, saying you are basically a medical logistic company in a way, because you try to help people with the medical logistics, the hospitals and all that. Maybe I'll not have done you justice if I don't ask, what do you think maybe the government should do more in terms of logistics, in terms of containing we're in a pandemic right now. I saw, it's just yesterday the president extended another 60 days. People were saying, who are the guys advising our president? Because they were saying, does it mean that curfew travels at night? The COVID, does it travel at night? So is it that the professionals who are supposed to be in those fields are not advising accordingly, or what is happening such that many people are complaining that the logistics, the containment measures, they are not as effective as we are seeing? We saw the other time in Europe, the footballs, the stadiums are fully packed and nobody was wearing a mask.
True.
So do we also maybe need to get everyone vaccinated? What's the solution? Where are we getting it wrong? Because in England, people were flocked in the field. Nobody is wearing a mask. Here we are still being arrested for not wearing a mask. People are still not supposed to be outside. People are dying because of being outside past curfew. We are having riots. People saying we want justice for the two brothers. What are these logistics that we are getting wrong?
Okay, so for me, I can say that I think the government has advisors, and every person in authority has people advising them. Yeah, and I cannot say they're not doing a good job. They've tried. They've tried their best. And when it comes to that, I don't really want to criticize, because the government has really tried to assist in terms of making sure that people take precautions, because initially when COVID came, it was something we could not understand.
Yes, we didn't even
and
know
people
what we were
took
dealing
different
with.
measures here and there. So I think for where we are at now is basically, I think with the night curfews and all that, is just controlling movement and making sure that people are not at past night hours. If the economy is hurting, you know what will happen if you're outside past working hours, past the curfew hours, and you find that it's just to contain the current situation, because as you see, there are so many things that happened with COVID. There were job losses, there were people who were doing business that had to close, to shut down, and all this. There are people in depression currently because of COVID-19, and one thing I think that is not supposed to be done now, and I think the government is clever now, is to lock down again a country and say cessation of movement. All people should stay in the house. I think we've learned the hard way, because the economy always crumbles. And in a bid to resuscitate that, that's why we've seen there are some measures they will take that will continue. Some will be, they will never repeat. Like, let's say cessation of movement and all that. I think that will not.
They've not seen.
We will not see that, because I remember we had the fourth wave happening in Nyanza and the western region, and you see people still traveled.
People were
still, so I think it's a high time. We need to know that COVID is here. We will never run away from it. It will be there. It will one day. It will go, but we cannot say that we live in fear. So we'll not live in fear, because we don't have that spirit of timidity,
but of power.
But of power, exactly. And in Luke 10:19, God has given us the power to trample over snakes and scorpions, and even the evil one. So I think what we need to do is just basically brace up, make sure that we all are keeping ourselves well, and making sure that we just trust in the Lord that this thing will come and go, and make sure that we are able to live in a manner that will be able to not compromise other people, but a manner that will be able to be safe for all. So I think the misinformation, there are so many myths about vaccines and all that. So I really don't want to.
Many conspiracies.
Exactly. So I really don't want to dive into that, because so many people, even the health workers themselves, some are not taking the vaccines because they have their own myths. So it's a personal decision based on your faith. Also, it's a personal decision for you to go and take the vaccine and get vaccinated. But I think it will get to a point where people will, like, there will be restrictions. If you want to work, you have to be vaccinated. If you want to travel, you have to be vaccinated. Because so you don't put other people at risk as well. But for me, that is a personal reason that people should be able to examine themselves and go and if they don't want to really go into all these discussions about the myths and that. So
because everyone has their own
exactly, everyone has their own views and perceptions.
Okay. Sure. Now, before time escapes us, I must also ask you this: how is it being a family man, balancing between being a CEO and running an organization, but you still have to be a dad when you get back home? Your family still needs your time, and I'm sure the job description also requires a lot of your time. So balancing between those two, how has it been?
It's not easy. It's precarious. Being a young family, per se, is quite hard. Sometimes you leave the office at 10 p.m. And you go back home and then you have to go back to, you get your daughter is asleep, or your kid is asleep.
Waited for you
they waited for you until they're tired, or they've cooked and they've waited for you to come so that they can also have dinner. So it's not easy. For me, I can say is that there's a lot of work sometimes, and the only thing that I always take pride in is that I always give them their time. When the time comes where I'm not working, I give them 100% time so that they can also enjoy, because without family, then there's nothing else we're working for. So for me, I work for my family and make sure that they're doing well, they're comfortable, and if I build one and leave the other, so I need to be all-rounded. And it's not only family, also spiritual.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're supposed to be an all-round person. So if you're only building one, then you're
The
leaving
other
room
one,
for others
yes.
to crumble. So for me, I've set time for my family, and I've set time for spiritual activities as well, and so also I've set time for work perfectly, so that there's no way we need to really clash. But there's sometimes where it need be, you have to focus more on the other. Which most of the time it's always work. Yeah, but I think I thank God for my wife. She understands, and I don't know if my kid can be able to understand for now. But
shout out to them. You can say hi to them. I'm sure they'll watch.
Hi. My wife is she's Tabitha.
Okay.
And my small daughter is Atalia.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
So being a man of faith, also maybe as we conclude, just speak and encouragement. There are people out there watching. People are at home, no jobs. Others gave up. We saw the statistics. Suicide cases have gone up all the way. Somebody might be saying, "Okay, good for you guys. You are there on TV. You are a CEO and everything." But you did not start there. You also have a history. It's just that time cannot allow us. Maybe we'll do another edition where people say their story, where they've come from.
Sure.
But maybe just encourage someone, because maybe someone is thinking these people have it all going well. But we do not lose hope. We are of the kingdom of God. That's why you're on the transformational talk. We want people's lives to be changed, people's mindset to be transformed. So maybe just offer some words of hope. You are parting short. Anything you feel like giving the viewers that will be of encouragement to them or an enlightenment, just share. Yeah, just look into the camera and speak.
Okay. So for me, I'd like to tell everyone that there's hope for everyone. And there's no one that is loved by God more than the other. God loves all of us, and what we need to do is just to be able to focus on Him, and He'll be able to guide us, to give us a straight path. And one thing I can say, that we should not be looking at other people as if they are, like God has given us the same measure of faith. So I think all of us need to really not lose hope, but believe in the Word of God, because it's the only word that gives us hope. In terms of, if you check on Joshua 1:8, it says you meditate upon it day and night.
This word of the Lord shall not leave you.
Exactly. This. So if you meditate upon the word of the Lord, that He's going to make your ways prosperous. So I think we all need to always hook up to the word of the Lord, get encouragement, and also able to really put to work anything that you find, because no one started and became the person that they are now. So there's a road path that anything that you find to do that is very good and not harming you in any way, I think is the best way to do it. And in that process, so there's a process. So in that process, if you're faithful with another man's, God entrusts you with your own. If you're faithful with little, God gives you more. So within that process or the cycle of moving from one level to another, and always, like in 1 Thessalonians 5, it says, give thanks. In everything you give thanks. You get the point? And if you continue giving thanks in everything that you do, and in every level of that the Lord takes you from one level to another, I think giving thanks and making sure that we are able to use the same resources that the Lord has placed into our hands to make sure that we do great exploits for Him. So I think my encouragement to all young people out there is that the Lord has not forsaken us. Yeah, it's just a process of us offering ourselves. Romans 12, 1 to 2. It says, I beseech you, brethren, by the mercies of God, that we offer ourselves as living sacrifices, holy and acceptable to God, which is reasonable service. That we should not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be ye transformed by the renewal of our minds, so that we may know the perfect will that He has for our lives. So I think that's the only thing we need to do, is we submit to God, so He can be able to reveal to us the perfect will in our lives. And surely He will, and it will really come to pass. Because His perfect will is for us to have divine health, divine provision. You see, there are some places where I've seen men of God come and say, I don't pay for gas. It's natural. It comes. Yeah, so that's divine provision. And normally I want to tap into that grace as well. So I like to urge everyone that these things happen, they're real, and the kingdom of God is quite good. And I must say that we are going to do great things if we be able to.
Amen. Thank you for coming. It was nice having you. I'm sure we'll have more. Let the COVID just go down a little, I'm sure we'll be having the panel session. So we'll be having a room full of people, and then we'll have a panel where they're getting the questions. For now, we have to do very limited number of people on social distancing, but thank you for coming. I'm sure we'll get to have you again. So maybe how can people reach you? Maybe if people want to know more about Live Kenya, social media or something? Or
Yeah, so on social media, currently we have Live Kenya on Twitter. Then there's Live Cares, now that's the HQ. Live Cares, you can be able to go on Instagram, Live Cares, on YouTube, Live Cares, on Facebook, Live Cares, yeah, and even LinkedIn, there's Live Cares, yeah.
No problem. So get interacting, let us know your thoughts. That is all we had for today for time. Bye. Thank you for watching. Till next time, have a wonderful time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
We thank God. Let me check here.
You are watching Jtv, your